Ever wondered why some people find it almost impossible to break free from toxic relationships? The answer lies in two words: trauma bonds. You see, trauma bonds are a potent yet largely unrecognized phenomenon that can keep individuals tethered to harmful relationships. Imagine an invisible cord of emotional attachment tying the abused to their abuser. This connection isn't born out of love or mutual respect, but rather it's a product of a relentless cycle of violence, confusion, and manipulation. Now, when we talk about violence, it's important to understand that it's not always physical. Emotional and psychological abuse can be just as damaging, if not more so, and they're often the driving forces behind the formation of trauma bonds. These types of abuse can be subtle and insidious, slowly chipping away at a person's self-esteem and sense of reality, making it all the more difficult for them to sever the bond. Trauma bonds don't discriminate. They can form in various types of relationships. They may develop between romantic partners, within families, among friends, or even in professional settings. Essentially, any relationship where there's a power imbalance and that power is being misused can set the stage for trauma bonding. At this point, you might be thinking, but why would anyone stay in such a harmful situation? Well, that's precisely where the power of a trauma bond lies. It creates a confusing mix of fear, dependency, and loyalty, making it incredibly difficult for the person on the receiving end to walk away. It's like being stuck in a maze of emotions, with every turn leading back to the source of pain. A key aspect of trauma bonding is intermittent reinforcement, the unpredictable cycle of abuse followed by periods of kindness or remorse from the abuser. This keeps the victim hoping for change, holding on to the moments of calm amidst the storm. Understanding trauma bonds is the first step towards breaking them. But how do they form in the first place? Trauma bonds do not form overnight. They are the result of a complex and destructive cycle of abuse. So, let's delve into what this cycle looks like and how it contributes to the creation of these deep-seated bonds. The cycle of abuse often commences with a phase known as tension building. This is a period characterized by escalating stress and anxiety, like the proverbial calm before the storm. The person on the receiving end may feel like they're walking on eggshells, trying to avoid any potential triggers. Then comes the incident, the storm itself. This is the moment when the abuse takes place. It could be physical, emotional, or psychological, but regardless of its nature, it's a deeply wounding experience for the victim. But the cycle doesn't stop there. After the incident, there's often a period of reconciliation. The abuser may apologize, promise to change, or shower the victim with affection. It's a confusing time where the victim is led to believe that maybe things will get better, maybe this time things will be different. Finally, we have the calm. This is a period of relative peace and tranquility that follows the reconciliation. It's during this time that the victim may start to second-guess their own experiences and feelings, wondering if things were really as bad as they seemed. But here's the catch. This cycle repeats itself over and over again. Each repetition further entrenches the trauma bond, making it stronger and more difficult to break. This cycle is insidious, and it's the reason why trauma bonds are so powerful and so hard to escape. To understand this better, we reached out to several psychologists who helped shed light on the psychological mechanisms behind trauma bonds. They explained that these bonds are formed as a survival strategy. The victim becomes emotionally attached to the abuser as a way of coping with the ongoing abuse. It's a subconscious attempt to make sense of the senseless, to find safety in an unsafe situation. The cycle of abuse is vicious and relentless, creating a powerful bond that can feel almost impossible to break. But what does this bond look like in real life? Real-life examples of trauma bonds can help us better understand this complex phenomenon. Let's delve into the lives of those who have grappled with trauma bonds. To protect their privacy, we'll use pseudonyms. Consider the story of Jane. Jane was in a relationship with a partner who was emotionally abusive. She found herself constantly drawn back to him, despite the pain. She was trapped in a cycle of hurt and reconciliation, a classic example of a trauma bond. Jane's therapist explained that her emotional attachment was so strong, it overpowered the rational part of her brain that knew she was being hurt. Then there's the story of Mark. Mark had a tumultuous relationship with his father. He was verbally abused and belittled throughout his childhood. Despite the years of mistreatment, Mark felt a strong bond with his father. It was a bond formed not out of love, but out of the trauma he endured. He was trapped in this bond, struggling to break free from the cycle of abuse. Therapists often encounter cases like Jane and Mark's in their practices. They see the deep emotional scars, the intense attachment, and the struggle to break free. One therapist shared, "It's like watching someone trapped in quicksand. They want to get out, but the more they struggle, the deeper they sink." The impact of trauma bonds on these individuals' lives is profound. They find themselves stuck in unhealthy relationships, trapped by emotions that are tied to their trauma. They struggle with feelings of guilt, shame, and fear. They feel powerless to break free, their lives dominated by the cycle of abuse and reconciliation. These stories are not isolated incidents. They represent the experiences of countless individuals worldwide, trapped in the grip of trauma bonds. It's a harsh reality that many face, a silent struggle that goes unnoticed by those around them. These stories are a stark reminder of the destructive power of trauma bonds. But what can be done to break these bonds? Breaking trauma bonds is no easy task. It requires strength, courage, and the right support. It's a journey that takes you through uncharted territories of emotional landscapes, where each step can feel like a monumental effort. But remember, it's not a journey you have to make alone. The first step is often seeking professional help. Therapists and counselors trained in trauma recovery can provide you with the tools and strategies you need to break trauma bonds. They can help you understand the nature of these bonds and why they are so hard to break. It's like being in a maze, and a therapist can provide you with a map to navigate your way out. Next, establishing a support network is essential. This network could include trusted friends, family members, or even support groups of people who are going through similar experiences. They are your cheerleaders, your sounding board, and your safety net as you navigate this challenging journey. Practicing self-care is also crucial. This is not about indulgence, but about honoring your needs and treating yourself with kindness and compassion. It could be as simple as ensuring you get enough sleep, eating healthily, or making time for activities that bring you joy and relaxation. It's about creating a safe space for yourself, both physically and emotionally. One therapist put it beautifully when she said, "Healing from trauma is like rebuilding a house that's been damaged in a storm. You can't just patch up the holes, you have to take it down to the foundations and rebuild it, brick by brick. And that takes time, patience, and a lot of hard work." Breaking trauma bonds is not a linear process. There will be ups and downs, progress, and setbacks. But every step you take, no matter how small, is a step towards freedom, towards reclaiming your life from the grips of trauma. Breaking trauma bonds is a journey, one that is fraught with challenges, but also filled with opportunities for growth and healing. It's a journey that requires you to be brave, to be patient, and to believe in your ability to heal. And most importantly, it's a journey that you do not have to make alone. The road to recovery from trauma bonds is a journey of self-discovery and healing. It's not a sprint, but a marathon that requires patience, resilience, and most importantly, self-compassion. It's about understanding that healing is not linear, and it's perfectly okay to have good days and bad days. In this process, we must remember to be kind to ourselves. Just like a physical wound, emotional wounds need time to heal. Rushing the process can cause more harm than good. It's essential to give ourselves the grace we would offer a friend going through a similar situation. Let's take a moment to celebrate the strength of those who have traveled this road before us. There are countless stories of individuals who have successfully broken the chains of trauma bonds. Each of these individuals, in their own unique way, has rebuilt their lives from the ground up. Take, for instance, the story of Jane. After years of being trapped in a trauma bond, she finally found the courage to break free. It was a long and arduous journey, but Jane managed to rebuild her life, one day at a time. Today, she is a beacon of hope for many who are still caught in the web of trauma bonds. And then there's the story of Michael, who, after breaking free from a trauma bond, used his experience to help others. He became a psychologist, dedicating his life to supporting those who are struggling with trauma bonds. Psychologists like Michael have noted the long-term effects of breaking trauma bonds. It's not just about breaking free, it's about building a new life, a life free from the chains of the past. It's about rediscovering yourself and learning to live again. The journey to break free from trauma bonds is challenging, but remember, you are not alone. There is help, there is hope, and there is a way out. And as you embark on this journey, remember to be patient with yourself, for healing takes time. And above all, remember that no matter how dark the night, the dawn always follows.